Hello, welcome to the Dish of C Squared podcast. Your host Chris and my co-host Aaliyah. We are here today with Ryan and Zach from Blackthorn Productions, and we are going to be talking to them today about both their label. Also, they do some promoting. They do a lot of things actually. So we are currently working with them. Well, C Squared is for the promotion of the Ox record. So we decided to have them both on, and it should be a good time. So to start off, I'm going to bring it over to Aaliyah to start the interrogations with the both of you.
All right, well, let's start it off with a brief summary of who you both are and what you do within the realms of metal. Ryan, why don't you get us started? Let us know what you're doing and what you're involved in.
Sure. So my name's Ryan. I'm co-owner along with Zach at Blackthorn Productions. It's kind of a newer DIY record label out of Toronto. I also run Pale Horse Promotions, a promoting company, and I started about a year and a half ago, kind of working for local bands in the Toronto, Hamilton, Barrie, kind of just the surrounding area. I also run Strange Matter Productions, which is kind of on the back burner for now while me and Zach are super busy. And that's kind of the gist of it.
Cool. And Zach, you?
Yeah, my name is Zach, co-owner along with Ryan as well with Blackthorn Productions. On the side as well, we're doing the promotions with their, I do Zed Hollow Studios. Been doing that since around like 2015, just kind of picking it up on the side, recording bands as it converted from doing my own bands to working with other people. And it's kind of just slowly been snowballing until this point here now.
Both of you are musicians then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I play, not in a band or anything, but I play at home.
Yeah,
So-
no band here either, just kind of was in the band up until like maybe I was 25, which is around 2012.
Cool.
And then
Are-
you decided to take your interests into the more business side of
Yeah,
things?
well, it kind of worked out as I started to decide just to do my own solo thing, people were reaching out about doing collabs, and then it started working out into working in their own material from there. So it kind of segued itself naturally.
Okay, sure. Curtis, you had a
Yes,
follow-up.
I did want to follow up. So just to bring us all back to the very beginning here. So how did this? So you guys had the promotion company first, correct? Is that how?
Yeah,
is this the
correct.
sequence?
Mhm.
Okay. So how did this come about? Because obviously, I don't know if like did one of you guys have the idea and then you joined up? Did you meet? Like, tell us the story.
Yeah,
where
like how
guys-
did you meet each other and started working together?
So I actually met Zach through my wife. He went to high school with her, and when I met my wife, naturally Zach came along with that package. So me and Zach actually worked construction for a while together for a better part of about like 4 years, and it was kind of something we were just kind of like tiptoeing around. Like we had, maybe said that we had some interest in doing something like this. And then we split ways in construction, both went off to do our own thing. And I think that's kind of right when COVID started happening. And I think we were just both kind of wanting to get out and like go to shows and stuff, kind of just itching to do that, But so I guess it was kind of like born, while we weren't able to do anything. And once COVID, like all the restrictions lifted, that's kind of when we sort of like jumped, feet first into it.
So what was the first show that you organized and promoted together, and what were all the things that went wrong?
Surprisingly, not much went wrong. Actually, no, that's a lie. Sorry.
I was gonna be really impressed.
We actually had about 3 venue changes just because one of the venues got in some trouble. Another one had like a COVID outbreak, and then a couple members from the bands had tested positive for COVID. So yeah, I guess a lot went wrong with it. But it turned out to be like a really good show, a sold out show, which was pretty surprising for our first act, right? So overall, it was a generally good experience, even all the stress included,
So what was your strategy going into that to help ensure that sold out status or get it to that point?
I think I was kind of doing a lot of work without realizing what I was doing at the time. Not so much not realizing what I was doing, but just kind of being unaware of some of the, things you're supposed to do. But I ended up putting a lot of money into like paid advertisement. Started getting a lot into like content creation, like creating my own promotions, getting more into like graphic design and video editing, just to be able to have some sort of extra content rather than, just posting the same flyer on Instagram like every single day. And I think that kind of helped with it. I think also just the bands themselves, like they were all pretty decent bands and all had a pretty okay following, and they all did promotions on their end too. So I think just overall, it was just a pretty good like team effort by everybody.
So I have a follow-up on this, if possible. Who were the bands who were the first bands rather that you guys booked on? You didn't actually say.
So do you mean the ones that dropped out because of COVID, or the ones who actually played the show?
Well, the ones who played the show, I guess, because who cares if they're dropped out?
Yeah,
That didn't
fair,
make
fair.
any difference to you.
So
Well, I mean,
we had-
actually, it would. It would, because I want to know if they were big names. So yes, tell us.
oh, so you want the originals?
Both, yeah, tell us both.
Okay, so it was originally the Slime, Choices Made, and a band from Hamilton called Postpartum.
Okay.
And it was Postpartum that actually had to drop out initially. And then, yeah, like I said, one of the venues had to drop out. We had another one on there. The name kind of escapes me right now. But the bands that ended up playing were the Holdouts from St. Catharines. We had Choices Made from Toronto, the Slime from Toronto, and Scabs Off from Hamilton.
Those were the ones who played.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to switch over to Zach because Brian just answered this. So how did you guys kind of pick which bands to book then?
Just kind of happened naturally. I feel like just through
Sure.
meeting people when we started going to shows, it was just like, yeah, it didn't really feel like we kind of thought too hard. We were just trying to reaching out to what we thought was going to work, because Scabs Off was definitely a last minute thing, and they turn out to now be like someone who we work with a lot.
Fair.
Slime, I believe, was already friends with Ryan beforehand, because we had all met up at this first festival, like in this offshoot farm area.
Mhm.
And that's where a lot of things started to happen, because everyone was just trying to come out of the bushes there after COVID was ending.
So what was, I don't think you said this, or if you did, I somehow missed it. What was the attendance like at that first show after COVID?
I think we had something like 32 advance tickets sold.
Cool.
And I think we had something like, it was somewhere between 40 and 45 walk-ins, which I guess depending on the venue you go to isn't all that much, but this spot we're at, Door Pub, it's a super like tight knit area, and they've got like a lot of really good regulars. So it's always like a really good kind of like energy that they have going there.
So actually, I'll let you ask the next one and then I'll follow up.
Well, if it's relevant, like follow up to what he just said, you can just ask. That's okay. I don't want to change the topic, but yeah. So how did you kind of gauge what kind of room cap you should set this show up at? Did you just use your intuition, or did you use some kind of metrics, or how did you decide those factors?
So I started doing the like the thing where you ask, the band what their draw is. But I found, especially since then, to find that is not really an accurate way of figuring out like what kind of like capacity you should look for. Like someone's always gonna undercut it or overshoot it, right? So I guess it was kind of just, yeah, like you said, intuition. I don't know. I figured, like it's, for my first show, it would have been really hard to pull in 100 people. So I just made sure to go with somewhere that had like a 80 capacity kind of like limit, and I figured we could make that happen.
So how did you kind of get the show promoted in advance?
So yeah, like I said, I had actually never done like any sort of like video editing or anything before, but I just decided to take it up and started making just some silly promotions and
Yeah.
whatever I thought was kind of relevant. Like I made like specific videos for each one of the bands that they could use, like take and use on their own social medias.
Nice.
I kind of did like my own stuff that I could use. Then I'll do like some videos that kind of like compile all the bands together. Back at the time when I started, like I said, I was like super new at it, so it wasn't anything really extravagant, but I think the effort kind of was there, and I think people kind of, tuned into that. I think it kind of just worked out well that way.
There's also a lot of flyering we did along there because with Hamilton, the community is really tight, especially like the Doors pub is literally known as the metal and taco joint.
Nice.
Right around there, we were just even meeting people who are familiar with the area too.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, I think the flyering definitely. I think that possibly had a pretty good help on it too, along with paid advertisement. I
Mhm.
feel like just the two of those things together, like they're kind of often overlooked, but
Yep.
I think they have a lot of benefit to, taking the time and effort and the budget to make that happen.
Fair enough.
So when you say paid advertising, did you use your videos that you were creating as an advertisement, or what was your strategy with that?
I use the flyers for it just because it's more like static, I guess. I had noticed that from some of my analytics, like people don't really stick around to watch like some of the videos I was making. Like some of the videos I was doing were like you were between like 30 and 40 seconds long. And I think I kind of like clued in that most people are already scrolling past that by like 5 or 10 seconds. So I just figured the flyer itself was kind of, you know, just the better thing to do in that case.
So can I go off topic, Ali, or do we have more on this?
I want one more question also.
I'll
Like
wait.
you mentioned flyering, Zach. What types of places did you flyer, and how did you decide where to put your flyers?
I guess it helps because also in Hamilton, there's a lot of not just metalheads, but there's a big college area as well. Like we have Hess Village, so that's right next to it. We just
Yeah, and a lot of
worked around.
colleges will have like big bulletin boards everywhere for people to post.
Yeah, especially right around there's the university over here, McMaster. They have boards that are just meant for flyering. Right as I put one up, people would gather around and ask what's going on. I don't know. It definitely felt like a lot of the flyers weren't happening. I don't know if people aren't doing that as much anymore.
Well,
But
right. I feel like they're not because like I asked this question because it's like I don't know where I would post flyers. I mean, I don't live on a when I was in college, I put flyers all over my college campus, but like what do I do now? So
yeah, I don't know. Even just the wooden posts, I walked around with a staple gun wherever I would just walk around and meet people. It has that kind of vibe here in Hamilton for sure.
cool.
So-
Take it away.
It's a little bit more like relaxed in Hamilton too. Like I know in Toronto there's a lot of at least bylaws that say you can only flyer in certain places. But yeah, in Hamilton it was kind of easy just to put them literally like wherever you want, wherever you thought eyes were going to see it. It kind of worked out.
So I want to change the topic if we're good now. Good. So let's talk about the label. So what the fuck were you guys thinking doing a label? I guess is the question.
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of snowballed when we met Ox. Like we definitely knew we wanted to do something for bands together. Like
Yeah.
Ryan had been working on doing promotions and gig booking while I knew how to produce the sound, as well as being with bands and knowing how to do those tasks and knowing how much band members hate doing those tasks, but knowing that we could outsource that for them. So going back when we met Ox, they kind of reached out about how they can help with the release, or I think first doing shows, and that they had a release going. So Ryan and I figured we could put that together. And then they asked then about how we can help promote the release. And that's kind of when Black Throne was actually born.
So you guys started due to Ox.
Well, we had the thought in mind. It's just that was kind of like the catalyst, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. I didn't want to start something called a quote unquote record label. if we didn't have any bands to work with. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
So it kind of like, even like we went with the term productions in our name because we thought Black Throne Records was a little bit silly, you know, like when we don't have any records out. But them like coming in to like work with us definitely helped kind of like kickstart us, you know, into that mindset. And it was really just like a serendipitous kind of meeting, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know. And then how did you get, okay, so for anybody listening who doesn't know, Ox is a stoner band based out of Barrie, not Toronto, I almost said Toronto. They released a cassette on Tarantula Tapes back in April, I think it was. And so, okay, you guys didn't have anything to do with the tape release though, right? Tarantula has nothing to do with you guys, right?
We worked with them on it and
Okay.
got them the meeting between Tarantula Tapes and Northern Haze, which
Okay.
kind of worked on distribution up
I forgot
north.
about that. Yeah.
But for that was a Tarantula Tapes and a Northern Haze release.
Okay, because my next question was going to be, so you guys were involved with Ox from the very beginning then of the,
Right.
okay, that's what I was trying to determine here. So now, how do I want to phrase this without it sounding weird? So did you kind of look at their sales figures prior to working out an arrangement, or was it kind of like a gut instinct? You guys were just like, yeah, we want to work with this band.
We basically told them that we would work on them to like record, mix and master the album. That was kind of Zach's thing that he did for them.
Mhm.
And then I was kind of booking and promoting shows for them. And we had kind of like teased that we would be willing to finance a record release for them, but we just wanted to see them put in some effort, like in terms of like their socials and kind of building up their branding and how they market themselves. And we were incredibly lucky that Chris just turned into a fucking monster with that. Like he fully like grabbed onto that. And I think we had told him we wanted to see them like, I think it was get like 1,000 followers or something and kind of remain consistent in their posting for a while. And yeah, it didn't take much time at all. Like before the digital release even came out back in June, he was already like like above and beyond that. So we kind of just went to work on it and made it happen for them.
Makes sense. Aaliyah, do you need to follow up?
I wanted to just ask if you could go into a little detail about what bands should expect. I mean, it kind of is on the topic that you've already discussed a little bit, but maybe a little more in depth about what tasks a band should expect a label to cover and what tasks they should expect to still have to do themselves.
Good question. I would say, like, obviously, you know, there's like the whole like pressing and releasing, you know. I think that's kind of like a big thing, but there's another band we're working with, Chowday, where we've kind of like worked out like a good deal with them, where we kind of handle like their promotions. We take on some of their gig booking. Obviously, we can't take on all of it at this point, but we work on, so for them specifically, we worked on a release schedule for their upcoming album, and we're kind of just, you know, like walking through that with them. So in terms of like releasing, like, you know, just a couple songs off the album, just to generate some sort of hype, you know, and then kind of like booking shows that kind of like, I guess, center around that. And then just kind of like artist management, just helping them like with any sort of questions that they may have or things that they're sort of unsure about how to go about in the industry doing. And then I guess also just like like I said, the promotions and kind of content creation for them, kind of helping them get their name out there. And really just trying to help them build up like a fan base before they have like their big release, so it's not falling on deaf ears, you know.
So I just realized we only have 10 minutes left, but we're gonna make the most of this 10 minutes. So what I was gonna ask you guys is about, are you seeking more bands? I guess is the first question before I go to my next one.
Definitely, for sure.
Absolutely.
So tell me this then. So let's say a band wants to sign with Black Throne Productions. So walk us through how they would do that. What would make you guys even want to consider financing an album from Joe Blow or Joe Blow Band?
Sure. You want to take this one, Zach?
Yeah, sure. initially we just try to make sure that they're actually putting an effort in towards the band. So I guess checking in their socials first.
Okay. So what would be,
Um,
so sorry to interrupt, but I just want to,
Yeah.
just so that way it's clear, because we got mainly musicians that listen to this anyways. So define good socials for anyone listening, in your opinion.
Um, we come across a lot of pages where like people aren't even like active on it. Like Ox is a great example how they took off, where it's kind of hard to keep track of now, where we come to people who are trying to promote something and they haven't been on there for a year.
Mhm.
There's nothing going on, even like maybe the past few months, because bands are moving so fast these days. You got to be able to keep up with it, especially with how much are coming out now.
Okay.
Just for
Um,
me, it's I like to see that a band is like aware of who they are and the image they're trying to put out there to their fans.
Mhm.
Like there's some people who they just post random stuff and it doesn't have any rhyme or reason, which I guess for some that's kind of okay if that's your thing.
I think
Um,
Ali's giving me the dirty look on that one, but anyways, I'm kidding, Ali. I know you're not. I know you're not. It was a joke. It was a joke.
I feel like it's just in terms of socials, it's just seeing them interact with the fans, seeing that the fans are interacting with them. So it's not just, you know, this band of like four people just throwing shit at the wall and nothing is sticking. You know what I mean?
Fair. Yeah.
So yeah, I like to see the interactions back and forth. And I kind of like to see that they have like their own brand established.
Okay.
It makes it a lot easier to kind of help them with their content creation and with finding our own narrative around
Mhm.
pushing their album or their release, whatever. Like with Ox, it's super easy because I think that me and Zach are both into the same stuff as the members of the band, like in terms of like the style, the music, and everything. So we have a very cohesive relationship.
Yeah.
So it works well with them, and I think I just like seeing other bands that have that same drive to kind of have their own brand and push it out there, just so it's easier for us to kind of um, just kind of latch onto that and just push their own narrative. You know what I mean?
I do. So do they have to be a stoner band? Because you guys do a lot of punk shows and stuff. So out of curiosity, what genre does it have to be, if any?
I don't think we're tied to any specific genre right now.
Fair.
Obviously, we're, walking around in the metal pool, right? Metal, hardcore, punk, stoner, doom, anything like that.
yeah, like
But it's not necessarily to say that we wouldn't work with someone else. It would just have to be, something that we're really passionate about, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm.
well,
Okay.
even Jowday themselves, like that's expanding more into like the progressive, sludgier side of things. If you're familiar with them,
No.
even before the music I used to do, before like Ryan's the one who got me into like the stoner genre. I was into like a lot of like avant-garde, progressive, or even just like hardcore.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, so then the final, so got the band. Now you want to sign them. What comes next?
That's kind of where we like to like do our little release schedule thing. So I guess a little bit of backstory. I took project management. I studied that in school, and I kind of see this as kind of like releasing an album is the same as just a project, right? So it's a matter of getting your scope, your budget, and your schedule all together. So we like to actually just sit down with the band, figure out like those three kind of very important things. And then it's really just, working out the kinks in the release schedule and then walking through them with that and, just, I guess, all the way to release day. Like I said earlier, you had asked like what helps us decide if we want to finance or not. Well, we have to, within like the first couple months, it's good to see that they're really, I guess, taking to heart that advice and putting in the time in their socials and kind of building their brand and marketing.
Mhm.
And then I think we kind of just take it from there.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay, so we got about 4 minutes left. Aaliyah, what do we want to ask these guys in the last 4 minutes?
I kind of want to go back really quick to show promotion and talk about a touchy subject.
Uh-oh.
Pay to play shows, or as it's cloaked now, requiring bands to pre-sell a certain number of tickets for a show.
Ooh, controversial. Here we go.
What is your take on this? Is it, because I know for me, I haven't heard, I just heard about it happening to somebody, maybe me. It's maybe about a show that I was potentially looking into signing up for anyway, but I haven't encountered that for a very long time. So what's your take on that?
So I think that's kind of interesting, actually. So I myself, I wouldn't ask a band to go and sell their own 20, 30 tickets, but I do find that's very interesting for some promoters to kind of do that. It kind of seems like they might be calling their bluff, you know, like when a band's like, oh yeah, I'll pull in 70 people when you know they're going to pull in 20. That's kind of an interesting way for the promoter or the booker or whoever to kind of say, okay, well, do that then. And I don't know. So I wouldn't do it myself, but I don't necessarily have any like strong feels on it. Pay to play shows, it's not really my thing. I kind of like making sure the bands get paid a decent amount. So I myself wouldn't ask a band to pay to play one of my shows. I guess it could be different for festivals and stuff, you know, considering how large the festival might be, and you're kind of paying for publicity at that point, which again, I don't have any real strong feels on, but yeah.
Well, right. I mean, it's interesting because you were mentioning earlier about asking bands about their draw, and you mentioned both people can overshoot and undershoot because bands don't really necessarily have a gauge on how many people they can draw. And so I wonder if it's not necessarily an effective strategy. It almost is more just like paying to play. It's like you just have to pay for 30 tickets, okay? It's like you can sell them or you can just pay the money. It's like either way, the promoter is getting paid and not the band, right?
Yeah.
But
It's an interesting thought. I actually hadn't thought of it like that before.
I mean, yeah, Ryan, your viewpoint, I don't think I've heard it said like that. That's interesting for me. I can see both viewpoints now. Before I was like those fucking greedy promoters, but now when you put it that way, it's like, understand. Good. Maybe
Yeah.
you don't do it.
Like I've been doing it for a minimal time, but I can understand why for some promoters, especially ones who are locked into promoting for specific venues,
Yeah.
like I assume there are going to be times where you got to cover your own ass, you know.
Yeah.
So like I said, I don't necessarily have any strong feels about it, but it's just, yeah, it is what it is, right?
It is, and that's a totally new viewpoint for me. Aaliyah, can I ask a final question before your final question?
no, you can ask the final question.
Oh, I get to ask the final question. Okay, so what venue do you guys like to which venue out of all the venues that you guys currently have booked in the past, rather, not currently, do you guys like the best?
Doors
I
Club.
think Doors, yeah.
Cool.
And
Why is that?
it's just, I think I've booked there so many times at this point. It's just always such great people that come through. There's lots of really good regulars. It's at a really good spot in town. Always lots of walk-ins from people who just hear the noise. Very, I wouldn't say it's cozy on the inside where we have the show, but it's very tight knit and kind of, it's just a very unique vibe and kind of setting for a show. And I think all the show goers like also really like it for that.
Fair. Oh, I actually have one last question. This is a bitch, and maybe you guys can talk about this. I think I brought this up with Ryan earlier. I think it was you that talked to about this. Times. Why do fucking shows start so goddamn fucking late? Yeah, it was you, Ryan. That was who I was talking about.
I don't
was
know.
you, Ryan.
I think people are just locked into that mindset. I don't like it, especially the weeknight shows.
I fucking hate it.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I think I was
Got
telling
work
you
tomorrow.
there's like some shows you can insist that the doors are at 7 and the show starts at 7:30 or 8, and people will still show up at 9:30, 10 o'clock during the last band.
And that happened at the Conan show the other day. I mean, I got there at 7. They actually didn't open the doors till 7:20, even though they said doors were at 7, and then they didn't fucking start till like 8:05.
Yeah, pet peeve.
I fucking hate that. Zach, what's your take? Because Ryan stole their thunder. on this
I'm just gonna say it. We're always waiting for the drums to show up.
Fair. Fair.
It's very good
Fair.
take. Accurate.
That's
Fair.
it. Once
that-
that's there, then I can mic it up. We set up lights and then we're good to go.
Cool. Aaliyah, do you have a final question before we end off then?
Oh, I think that's about all we have time for. Thank you so much, you guys, for coming on and talking about all these topics with us. And everybody listening, I hope that you heard something helpful today. And if so, let us know. Let us know what you want to talk about next. And until next time, make like a bull and throw those horns up.